Well, after last week's calm episode, the focus is once again put on Negan in another very brutal and very thought-provoking episode. Hey guys, here for The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 3, The Cell, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. I've really been enjoying the season, as you guys know. I think that this season has really been really great so far. But this episode, I really know what it was going to be because the first episode, as we know, was Rick's group, and then last week's episode was Carol and Morgan. This episode, however, was the Daryl episode. This was when we realized why they needed Daryl, what they wanted with Daryl, what his purpose was in all this. And this, to me, we saw the return of Negan in this episode. This was another very hard episode to watch, but at the same time, it gave us a lot of questions. It really showed us who Negan is, and I definitely really did love this episode. This episode had some incredible scenes overall. I really did love pretty much everything about this one, so let's just get into it, because I don't have a ton to say, but just like last week's, I don't have a ton to say about this episode. I definitely have more to say about it than last week's, but again, this was a pretty straightforward episode, but let's just get into it, because I definitely do have stuff to say about it. But we start off, we see Who's the Boss is on the TV. Dwight is watching. He's then seen with a woman taking shots, get glimpses of people, food, and fights as Dwight walks around the sanctuary. Right off the bat, things felt very calm and just relaxed, and it was weird. But he got to inspect the people in bunk number 39. He takes the food they have. All this is all happening. He makes himself a sandwich, and you get the sense that while these people are doing horrible things, their lives really aren't that bad. I mean, they're just kind of like making sandwiches, they're watching TV. I mean, they pretty much have everything. And Negan walks by a group of saviors, and they all kneel. Dwight is the only one to look up as he walks by. As we know, Dwight is his most trusted ally. You get the sense that Dwight is the one that really believes in Negan and understands what he's doing and things like that. But the montage ends, and Dwight is eating the sandwich on the front steps of the sanctuary. We see the two men in gray sweatshirts with the letter F on the front. Coral walkers in a gated entrance. Dwight then watched and is fixated on a zombie stuck on a pole. Dwight then makes a sandwich out of dog food. He takes it to a cell where Daryl is curled in the corner naked, so they're literally feeding Daryl dog food. Really weird scene overall. It's one of the many weird scenes in this episode, but it makes sense why they're doing that, because again, Negan doesn't see his people as people. He sees them kind of like as animals and property, so Daryl's lying in his dark cell. He reaches toward the small light coming from beneath the door. He's struggling to reach, and his door finally opens. Dwight comes in with another sandwich, and he watches Daryl as he eats before leaving. He closed the door, and Daryl's seen again the same song playing as before, meaning he's getting fed. Each time the songs begin to play, Daryl knows it's time for food. This like happy song about like sunshine and things like that. Really weird song for The Walking Dead, but like that's when he knows it's time to eat. So Dwight throws sweats at Daryl, and he returns to take him out of the cell. So Dwight then leads Daryl down the hallway and through a red door, and there's a lot of scenes. For the first, I'd say 20 minutes, there's barely any dialogue in the show. I was honestly really impressed with the way they did that. And we see Sherry sitting on the table. She dresses Daryl, and Dwight cuts her off. He notices a pregnancy test on the table, and she says that it's negative. Sherry again tries talking with Daryl, and Dwight chastises her because, again, she shouldn't be talking to him. So the doctor tells Daryl he will get better. Negan will take care of him, and in the hallway, Negan appears. He asks for a meeting with Dwight, and Daryl's taken around the hall across from where he sits. There's a bedroom with the door open. He stares into it until Dwight returns, and outside Daryl watches as the guys in sweats deal with the walkers outside the fence. Dwight shoots a walker with the crossbow, tells Daryl he's still getting used to it because he's not used to killing walkers, which I found interesting. The way that Dwight seemingly is okay with torturing people, but walkers he's not okay with, I found very interesting. But as we know, one of the biggest parts of Negan's group is to make them feel like they're kind of like, they themselves are kind of like walkers, you definitely see. So Dwight tells Daryl he can be like the SEAL guys, him, or the walkers, and overall this was just a really good start the way they set this up. So Dwight then takes Daryl back to his cell. He tells Daryl to make it easy on himself and kneel before Negan. Daryl says he never will, and Dwight disagrees. And you understand, obviously. I mean, after everything that Negan did, how the hell is Daryl ever going to be able to kneel to someone like that? He just can't do that. And the song continues on again. Daryl goes insane. He's expecting food, and no one is showing up. And I thought they did some really good scenes in this episode where it really got into Daryl's psyche. Really good stuff there. Norman Reedus really did kill in this episode. I know people give him shit, but I really think he did a great job here. Negan and Dwight are then talking, and Negan compliments Dwight's efforts of breaking Daryl. Negan offers Dwight a blast from the past with a you-know-who, and Negan says he's kidding. He can pick whoever he wants as long as she says yes. So Negan asks about Dwight's manhood since Eugene bit him, and Dwight passed. Negan wonders why he's saying no. Dwight says he hasn't finished the job, so he hasn't earned it. So Negan says he earns what he takes, and a woman comes across the radio saying someone has stolen something. Dwight says he'll go, but Negan says that work is beneath him. Dwight wants to anyway, and Negan says, good boy. We don't really know what exactly she's talking about, but Dwight then drives a motorcycle down the street. He stops at a bridge. The song plays again, and this large man opens Daryl's cell. He hands him the sandwich, leaves again after Daryl begins eating. Daryl sits alone, and he looks at the door. He begins trying to open it, and it works, and the man left it unlocked. So Daryl walks down the empty hallway, past the chair he was sitting in. He creeps around. He stops for another man to walk by. With more men coming behind him, Daryl hides, and you can tell, obviously, he's trying to get away. So back in the road, Dwight walks the bike through the patch of down walkers. They are alive but immobile. The group looks to have been all taken out by the same thing, which, of course, are walkers. And a walker suddenly falls from the bridge, knocks Dwight over. He shoots the one on top of him. And again, I think this really just shows that the walkers aren't really that big of a threat anymore because of the saviors. They're really the ones that are taking out these walkers, and there's not a big deal because of that. But Daryl, and it also shows why Dwight's not used to it, because I guess walkers they just haven't really encountered as much. But Daryl gets stopped by Sherry. She tells him to go back. There's always more that Negan can do to him. She says that he can't get away, and it'll be worse whenever he misbehaves. Daryl turns and he walks away, searching for the door to get out. Outside, there are multiple motorcycles. Daryl tries to start one, but a group of men come outside and surround him. Negan appears whistling his tune. He asks if Daryl is pissing his pants yet, and obviously we know what that's all about. So basically, we see Daryl walks, which I thought that was definitely a very intimidating scene. And again, Jeffrey D. Morgan is so great as this character. I think he's just really killing as Negan. Negan asks the men who they are. They all reply with Negan. He says, see that? He is everywhere. And he really is. I mean, he has all these people on his side. And the unlocked door was actually a test for Daryl, and he failed. And Negan says his life was about to get much cooler, but not now. You know, he wanted to see if Daryl would actually comply. Daryl did, so because of that, now it's going to get a lot worse. And Negan says Daryl has three choices. Either he dies, he gets put out to work for him as a walker, or he works like a slave, or he works for him and lives like a king. That is why these people live such great lives, because the people that work for Negan have great lives, you see. I mean, look at Dwight, look at Sherry. These people seem to have everything. They have food, they have the TV, they have everything for them. They don't need anything else. They have pretty much everything they need, and you know, either it can do one of those three things, and there is no fourth option. So Negan begins to take a swing at Daryl. I honestly thought that Daryl was going to get killed in this episode. I thought this was going to be the end of him, but he stops just before his head. Daryl didn't flinch, and he says he likes Daryl's guts, but says it pisses Lucille off. She isn't feeling thirsty, but Negan is. He's going to get a drink. The other men beat Daryl as Negan leave, and it just seems like Daryl won't crack. We don't know why. For some reason, whatever he does, Daryl does not seem to be affected by what Negan is doing. That really is one of the most compelling things about this entire episode by far. So Dwight's walking with the broken down bike. He sees a man up ahead fighting his walker. He puts the bike down, goes after him. Daryl's sitting alone in the hall in his cell, and he says that someone is standing at the door. Sherry begins talking to him. She apologized for what happened to him. There's so many things that she wishes she never found out, and she wishes she didn't try. She says that back in the woods when they took Daryl's stuff, she told him that she was sorry. He told her that she was going to be, and now she is. So I like the way that Sherry actually is kind of bonding with Daryl. I like this overall. Dwight's then talking to the man on the road. He says he's taking him back and that he now owes a whole lot more. The man pleads with Dwight, saying he used to be friendly, but Negan changed him by abusing him and his wife, and he says that it's not Dwight's wife anymore. And with a gun in his face, Dwight says to keep walking. The man tells him that he wants Dwight to pull the trigger, and he can't go back. Really well done scene, let me just say. The way this scene was done, you can tell this man, he's just not okay what Negan is doing. The man says that Negan claims there's only one way, there's only one of him, and so many of them. Why do they have to live like this? He doesn't understand. I mean, they can do whatever they can to rebel against Negan, but Dwight says because they have come so far because of him. Dwight understands what Negan has given them, therefore he's kind of under the spell of Negan, and you definitely do see that with Dwight here, and I thought they did a really good job at focusing as much on Dwight as they do on Daryl. I mean, Dwight, this is someone who is bowing to Negan, and he is nodding his head because he understands Negan more than anyone. I mean, he's the one that really respects what Negan is doing. He understands why Negan does what he has to do, and it's completely understandable. I really did love, I really did like what we got with Dwight in this episode. He seems to be a very compelling character. This is someone who, even if he doesn't think what Negan is doing is right, he knows that Negan is giving them this great life, so he can't not do, he can't help but obey him. And the man says that he thought living in the sanctuary would be okay, but that he thought he knew how to fight the walkers. He gets on his knees. He says there's nothing left for him. This will be his last time he kneels. Dwight says he will take all of his friends and torture them for the rest of their lives. He will dig up the man's wife and feed her to the crows, and just knowing that if you do one thing that your rest of the family means nothing is just crazy, but it makes sense. I mean, if you betray Negan, you pretty much betray everyone. Your entire family has betrayed Negan, which is just a really interesting way of looking at it. But the man gets up, he tells Dwight that he won, but he knows there's nothing left. Dwight limps down the road, he smiles, he raises his gun, fires at the man, and the man is killed. And just a really crazy scene overall, the way it was done. I was very surprised to see him actually kill him, because I thought Dwight was going to spare him, but no, he actually did kill him, and it really just showed the type of bond that Dwight and Negan have. And in the dark stairwell, Dwight enters. Sherry stands on the next flight up. He walks to join her. He asks her for a cigarette. They both smoke. Dwight asks if he is good to her. She says yes. She asks him if he's happy. He says yes. Dwight tells her that she did the right thing. It's better than being dead. Dwight puts a cigarette out and walks away, and the song plays again. Daryl sits in the cell. Dwight brings him another sandwich and tells him to eat, and basically the cycle is continuing. And he says Daryl got his friend killed and that the sandwich is thrown back at him. He tells Daryl that he should be dead, but Negan is taken to liking him. Negan was ready to kill him, but again, Daryl's not cracking. Negan very much sees that, and Negan feels like he could be a good ally to him for that, and he could use him really well. And he puts a photograph on the wall next to Daryl. It's a picture of Glenn's dead body. I mean, how much more brutal can that get, just seeing Glenn's dead body right there? I mean, it has to be the image that is just implemented in Daryl's head. That just, he probably seen that over and over again, and you can tell it's really affected Daryl to the point where he's kind of emotionless. And Daryl looks at the photo, a different song plays. Dwight is standing outside the cell, he's listening to the song. Daryl's starting to cry, listening to the singer talk about crying, and Daryl actually cries heavier. He begins to openly weep. Dwight hears him cry, he walks away, and Dwight doesn't care that he's crying. I mean, again, they will mentally torture them as much as they have to, and Dwight opens the door. Daryl's passed out, there's vomit in front of him. Dwight appears in that room from earlier, Negan's sitting in the chair. He leads Daryl inside, and Negan gets him something to drink, says he will have the doctor help him out. And Negan then has this fantastic monologue. I loved this scene. Jeffrey D. Morgan absolutely killed it here. He tells the story of how Dwight wasn't always important. He says Dwight and his wife and her sister used to work for points, but that's in the past. This is when Dwight and the woman took off with all the medicine. He says that there are rules. It's cost an arm and a leg to go after him, but Dwight still got away. And he says Dwight saw the light. He returned forgiveness. He begged Negan not to kill Sherry, and she says that she will marry Negan if he let Dwight live. Now, Negan claimed it was a start, but not enough, so Dwight got the iron, and then Negan married his wife. So now Dwight is one of Negan's top guys, and they are totally cool. That's why things turn out the way they are. I mean, that's why him and Negan are so close, because of the fact that Negan did in fact marry Sherry, we see, which I thought overall was very interesting. Negan says the point is Daryl could become that guy. He says this whole room and everything, it can be his if he answers a simple question. And it's a very similar scene to what we got with Carol and I can't even think what the hell was his name. I loved his character. I can't think of his name right now. Ezekiel. It's the same kind of scene with Carol and Ezekiel, just a very different type of character. And I like the way that those two forces are playing a huge role into this season, because they do have very, not similar ideals, but they do have very similar ways of doing things. The way they have someone, the way they're getting someone to recruit, and basically, he says, if he answers a simple question, the question is, who are you? And Daryl is silent. Negan asks again. He asks, who are you? And after a moment of silence, Daryl says his name, not Negan's. Daryl made his choice. And obviously, because of the fact that he didn't bow down to Negan, he's not going to be respected. He's thrown back in the cell by Dwight. He tells him he will end back up in that room or on the fence. Daryl says he understands why Dwight took it from Negan, that he was thinking of someone else. It's the exact reason why Daryl can't break, because he has people in mind. He has people on his side, and because of that, he doesn't need to bow down to Negan. He doesn't feel like he has to. He doesn't have anything to give to Negan, and Dwight watches the man on the fence. He throws his beer bottles to the walkers. The walker closest to him is actually revealed to be the man from the street. He claws at Dwight, and Dwight has to look away. He walks back inside, Dwight basically realizing what he's done, and that is the way the episode ends. Really great stuff overall, but let's get into this episode, because I definitely do want to talk about where I think we're going to go from here. So just like last week, I don't have a ton to say about this episode. This was, like I said, a very straightforward episode. But I did really like the stuff we got with Daryl and Dwight. Now we really understand why Dwight and Negan are so close. The fact that Dwight really sees Negan as a god. This guy that can give him anything that he wants. I mean, literally anything that you want. As long as you answer to Negan, and as long as you do what Negan wants you to do, he will give you everything. If you say that you are Negan, and that you yourself, you're Negan, and that you want to be Negan, that is how Negan will give you what you want. It's a really insane way of thinking about it, but it's also the complete opposite of how Ezekiel feels, but again, a very similar type of scene. Daryl, as we know, doesn't feel that way. He feels like he's his own person. He's been with the group for too long, and he doesn't want to, he's not ready to stray away, and I completely understand why he doesn't want to stray away from that group. I think it's the right thing for him to do to not stray away, and I like that Daryl didn't stray away. He decided that he did want to be, he did want to keep his faith intact. He did want to stay with that group, and you definitely do see that, but it definitely is going to cost him, and I think someone probably is going to die next week. The fact that next week's episode is a 90-minute episode definitely has me worried that someone is going to die, and I definitely feel like that's going to happen. Daryl's going to die soon. I don't see Daryl living past this season. I'm saying that right now. I don't think Daryl is going to live past this season because already he is defying Negan, and even though Negan can't crack Daryl, because Daryl's still not cracking. I mean, he cried, but he still doesn't really seem to crack, and he also doesn't seem to really, that's why he can't break him, because Daryl, like I said, is holding on to things. He can do whatever he can to try to get into Daryl, and I feel like the only way to do that is to kill Daryl. I think that definitely is where this is going to go. I don't see Daryl living for that much longer. I mean, that's how I feel, at least. I don't know, we'll have to see. But the fact that Negan gives everyone these great lives, and then the fact that Daryl is forced to live as a slave, I just found all that really interesting where that's going. But next week's episode, we're getting back to the swing of things. We're going back to where we were in episode 1. We're going to see Rick's group again. We're going to see the impact of what happened after Glenn and Abraham's respective deaths. I think there's going to be another death next week. I really could see Negan doing this, and I feel like he's going to try to eliminate every single one of Rick's group until only Rick is left, because I think Negan wants to use Rick, and he sees a lot of, he sees that that Rick is power hungry, and that he wants to use Rick. I think that definitely is where this is going to go. He can't use Daryl, though. He wanted to use Daryl. He can't, and there's nothing he can really do about that. But either way, guys, I'm going to review this episode. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. I thought there was some really great stuff going on in this episode. Jeffrey D. Morgan did a really good job. I would have wanted to see a little bit more of Dwight. I definitely will say that. I think some of the talking stuff that Negan did, I want to get more into Negan's background. I want to get more into Dwight's background. I don't want Negan to just be, I don't want Negan to just be someone who is all talk and no show. I want to see how Negan became Negan. I really want to see that. I know they probably aren't ever going to do that, but I really do want to see how he became Negan. We'll have to see the way that's going to go. But Negan's head to Rick's group. Things are going to get crazy next week. I don't know how crazy they're going to get, but based on what happened in the last episode, things really are about to go to shit. We'll have to see. But that's my review. Hope you are enjoying the moments. Guys saw this episode overall. Loved your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next one, which will be for tonight's episode of Westworld, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.